There's an old saying that if you play with fire, you might just get burned. Well, the question is now for many Lions fans, did Dan Campbell play with fire and get burned? We're going to talk about it in today's episode, folks, so stay tuned.
We used to be a team no one respected. We used to be a team no one feared. That was then. This is now.
First victory of the year on the line. Goff's got it. Back, looks, throws, end zone. Yes! Caught!
You know who we are.
10-5, end zone, touchdown, Detroit Lions.
And you know where to find us. We won't be far. We'll be on your front porch waiting for you. We are the New Era Lions. And
we are driven by Detroit.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving in right now. But before we dive in, I just want to say to all my loyal subscribers and loyal fans that are coming back to the show, thank you all for your view, thank you all for your support. It absolutely means the world to me, and I'm ever so thankful for each and every one of y'all. And to those that are tuning into my show for the very first time, I just want to say thank you all for coming, thank you all for coming in, thank you all for your view. That also means the world to me as well. I hope you all enjoy the content, but even more so, I hope to gain your subscription if I've earned and deserved it. And with that being said, to everybody, I just want to say, God bless, hope y'all are having a good day, and let's dive into the show here. So, here's the thing, folks. I got no notes in front of me for this one. This is one where I'm just shooting straight off the cuff with you, because this is an interesting position for me as a Lions fan, because I have been involved in the Lions community now for a long, long time. And I've listened to all the Lions fans, and I can tell you this right now. This is a position where it's kind of very interesting to be, because I can understand both sides of the argument for what we're about to have here. And the reason I can say that is because the topic we're going to be talking about is, did Dan Campbell make a critical error, a critical mistake in starting the starters against the Minnesota Vikings here? Because right now, other than the fact that the Lions are going to play the Rams in the playoffs, that is probably one of the biggest areas of contention or biggest topic points right now that most Lions fans are talking about right now, because of the fact that the Lions had two I wouldn't say very serious, but they had two serious injuries from that game, and two other players that had injury scares. And there are a lot of Lions fans that are kind of pissed off at Dan Campbell because, in their honest opinion, they think that Dan Campbell took an unrealistic risk, an unrelated risk that he should not have been taking against that Vikings game, because in their eyes, they're like, listen, you put out the starters, and you have a very, very slim chance of winning the number 2 seed, because you need 2 teams to lose in order for that to happen. And to them, it's like, listen, regardless of what happens, you still got the number 3 seed. So what sense does it make to play the starters and risk getting injury? So here's what I'm going to say first. I'm going to say this to go with one side of the argument before I go to the other. I can understand why there are fans out there, Lions fans in particular, that are upset with Dan Campbell's reasoning on why he started the starters against the Vikings. Because, again, let's just call facts for what they are. The Lions were not going to go lower than the 3 seed. They had already locked that up. They were already guaranteed a home playoff berth. That was not going to happen or change anything. So you didn't have to worry about that. And to the other point here, it was very, very unlikely that the Lions were going to get the number 2 seed, because, again, you needed both Dallas and Philly to lose their games in order for the Lions to secure the 2 seed. That was the only way that was going to happen. There was no other possible manner in which the Lions could get the number 2 seed. So it's like, listen, if you have a very slim chance of getting the number 2 seed, which would prompt you to keep the starters out there, and you've already secured the number 3 seed with a home playoff game, what really are you playing for? That I can understand to a certain degree, coming from Lions fans that are like, listen, why would you risk your players getting injured 1 week before you're going to play a playoff game, all because of a slim chance you could get that number 2 berth? Otherwise, there's no point to it. So on that front, I can understand that. However, though, if we just simply look at it from that perspective, I don't think that that's doing enough justice to, one, the situation at hand, but also, two, understanding Dan Campbell and, furthermore, the Lions players' mindsets. Because let's think about this seriously here. First and foremost, let's understand something here. Everybody wants to talk about how the fact that Dan Campbell started the starters. Okay, fine. Let's just be real and honest here. It'd be one thing that a player like Jared Goff got injured, or a player like Montgomery got injured, or a player like Penei Sewell or Hutchinson got injured. If any of those guys would have gotten injured, then I could definitely see more so what Lions fans that are getting irked with Dan Campbell about starters getting started and hurt would have. I could really see that argument a lot better. But who are the two main players that got injured? Khalif Raymond and Sam Laporta. Now, Khalif Raymond, yeah, that one hurts. Because, listen, he's a great punt returner, and he's also a great wide receiver that makes some plays for us outside of the offense, whether it's Josh Reynolds, Jamison Williams, whether it's amon-ra St. Brown, whoever else. That one hurts because he is a guy that you could have sat, you could have rested, and you could have saved him. Now, let's take a look at Sam Laporta here. Going into that game against the Vikings, it's convenient how most Lions fans that have this argument about Dan Campbell sitting the starters conveniently forget this. The Lions only had two active tight ends for the game. That was Sam Laporta and also James Mitchell. So you couldn't sit Sam Laporta even if you wanted to, because all you had was a practice squad tight end that you just signed. There's no way you're going to bring that practice squad guy up just after signing him. That's not going to happen. So there was no way that they were not going to play Sam Laporta from that perspective. But furthermore, why would you sit Sam Laporta? It's his rookie year. Every freaking snap gains him experience. Every single snap helps him. You're not going to sit a rookie, even a very good rookie, for the end of the season, especially when you have a chance for him to gain more experience. So for me, that wasn't going to happen either. If you don't believe me, take a look at what the Rams did with Nakua. They said, listen, we're going to have him start. We're going to let him get to whatever statistical thing he needs to, and then we're going to pull him. The Lions didn't go that specific with it, but they're like, listen, we're going to put the starters out there for as long as we need to until we feel comfortable with where the game is. That's in essence what they said. So let's think about that for a minute. We already know that Laporta was not getting set because they didn't have any other tight ends. Plus, on top of that, Laporta's a rookie. You want to get him as many reps and as many snaps as possible to help his growth and development. That's number one. Number two here. Let's just understand the nature of football in the first place. Football is a violent sport. You're going to get injured. It's irrelevant if the injury happens in week 1 or week 18. I know some people are going to say, well, David, if you get injured in week 18, you got the playoffs, it hurts a little bit more. Okay, sure it does, but you can't stop when or how you're going to get injured. It's going to make, let's just put it this way, it'd make no difference if Laporta got injured next week in the game against the Rams and then he couldn't play in that game. Only thing that's changed is that Laporta was able to play part of the game or maybe a down. You don't know when it's going to happen. Case in point, nobody knew when Emmanuel Mosley was going to get injured. Everybody thought as soon as he came back, he was going to play the rest of the season. He played 3 downs and then tore his other ACL. He was done. That's the nature of how injuries work. They're unpredictable. You can't plan for them. It just happens. So yes, by sitting Sam Laporta, you could have at least negated it for that 1 week. That's all you got. You can't say about what's going to happen the next week. The only thing you got guaranteed is that Sam Laporta was for sure going to play, but you couldn't tell what was going to happen during the course of the game. So again, the injury problem to me, again, makes no sense because it's like, listen, you can't predict when injuries are going to happen, and injuries suck no matter when they happen. So it's like, listen, whether or not it happened this week, next week, week 1, week 2, makes no difference. It's all the same to me. So that's another point to bring up here. But then, let's just think about this furthermore. Do you honestly think Dan Campbell was going to keep the starters off the damn field? I don't think it was going to happen. You want to know why? Because the starters were pissed off. They were mad. Why? Because of what happens at the Cowboys game. They were not going to sit in the game against the Vikings after what happened on Saturday night against the Cowboys. They wanted to go out and they wanted to play. They wanted to play for themselves. They wanted to play for their pride. because they were angry about what happened on Saturday night. There was no way Dan Campbell was going to keep those guys off the field, because I guarantee you if he'd even tried to do it, he was going to have literally 46 players that were knocking on his door saying, yeah, I'm playing. I don't give a damn what you say. And if you don't believe me, think about this one. 2 years ago in the preseason, Jared Goff went into Campbell's office and said he was going to play for a preseason game, even though it was only one damn drive. So if you think that if Jared Goff's going to do that for a preseason game, what do you think's going to happen for the last game of the season when you have the potential to go get that number 2 seed on the line? Yeah, I don't think so. And speaking of that, let's just think about this, folks. What's Dan Campbell's mindset? It's three things. Aggressive, aggressive, aggressive. 3 times aggressive. That's Dan Campbell. He is always going to try and find whatever advantage he can to get his team in a better spot. And if there is even the slimmest chance that his team could get the number 2 seed, there is no way he's not going to try and go for it, and there's no way that the players were not going to try and go for it either. So if you have a chance to go out and get the number 2 seed by winning your game and hoping that the Eagles and Cowboys lose their game, the players in Campbell were going to go for it because they're always trying to get the best advantage for their team. And I commend them for that, because it would have been way too easy for the Lions to say, well, we've already locked up the number 3 seed. We don't really need to play for anything else. We'll just put our backups out there and say, screw it. No, you try your best. That's the name of the game. The name of the game is to win. It's not to just say, well, you know what, we've already won enough. If we happen to win this game with backups, so be it. No. The nature of the sport is to put your best competitive foot forward. And if I'm not doing that just because I'm trying to rest guys because I don't want them to get injured, you're kind of disenfranchising the nature of the sport in the first place. Because I'm telling you this right now, a true competitor is not going to take kindly to just sitting down and watching while somebody else plays in his position just because, oh, well, you know what, we want to rest you for the playoffs. True competitors don't like that. They might do it because they understand that there's other things going on involved. But I guarantee you, nobody just likes being told, yeah, we're going to sit you because we want to rest you. It's like, I want to go out and play. I want to go out and compete. That's the true nature of competition. That's the true nature of sports. So to me, that again doesn't make any sense. And then finally, let's just take a look at the logical aspect here before we truly get to who I think is to blame for this whole thing. Let's think about this. Had Dan Campbell decided not to start the starters, I watched that game just like any other Lions fan. Let me just ask you this question. Do you honestly think that the Lions win that game against the Vikings without the starters in there? No chance in hell. Because if you look at it, the freaking Vikings drew close, I think at least once or twice during that game, and that was with Nick Mullins as a quarterback. Nick Mullins is not that good, folks. So just let me ask you this question. If we put the backups out there, we don't win the game. We don't have a chance at the number 2 seed. And that, like I just said earlier, is an unacceptable thought process to Campbell and this team. So to me, again, no chance that was going to happen. Not from a logical perspective, not from a reasonable perspective, not from a practical perspective. There was no chance in hell, there was no way the Lions were not going to not play their starters because they wanted a chance at the number 2 seed. They knew the risks associated with it, so did Dan Campbell, and they said we're going to take it anyway because we want a chance for the number 2 seed, however slim it might be. Now, I'm just going to put this out here, and I'm just going to say this for what it truly is. When we realistically want to think about this here, I have one question to ask. People want to say that Dan Campbell's the one to blame for Sam Laporta getting injured. Now, I'm going to just ask this question here because I don't honestly remember what time Sam Laporta got injured. But if I had to take a guess, it was in the second quarter, right? So let me ask this question here. We've seen the Lions go up by 21-0 in the first quarter, or sometimes up to 28-0 or 20-something in the second quarter. So if Sam Laporta got injured, and I think it was in the second half, because when the halftime reporters came out, everyone was asking about this. So okay, second quarter. Sam Laporta gets injured in the second quarter here. Let me just ask this question here. What did Dan Campbell say about the game prior to kickoff? He said that they were going to keep the starters out there long enough to make sure that the game was in hand so that way they could start feeling like they could pull the starters out. How do you have a game in hand if your defense constantly keeps giving up points to Nick Mullins? Because think about it. At one point, we were up 20-6. All we had to do was get another score on the offense, not give up any points on defense, and somehow we would have had the chance to start pulling out starters. I guarantee it, because at that point the Lions were up by 3 scores. You could then start gradually pulling out starters, so that way you wouldn't have to worry about injury. But who kept letting the freaking Vikings back into the game? It was the defense, and thereby Aaron Glenn. Again, we all knew how the Vikings were going to attack us. They were going to throw the damn ball. We all knew it. And just like clockwork, they did exactly that. Nick Mullins threw it to Justin Jefferson time and time and time again, to where Justin Jefferson almost finished with 200 yards against us, much like how he finished with almost 200 yards against us the first damn time. So if you really want to blame anybody as far as why Sam Laporta got injured, I think you should point your finger more towards Aaron Glenn not having his defensive secondary able to cover Justin Jefferson. One damn dude. You've got 4 or 5 different cornerbacks back there and you can't cover one guy. Why? Because you're going to a cover 0 freaking soft shell zone coverage. So what you're doing is you're saying, well, we're not going to give up the big play deep, but anything short underneath, we'll be willing to give that up. And you saw it every damn time, because anytime they were throwing the ball underneath, the wide receivers and tight ends had 5 to 6 yards of soft coverage off from the freaking the defensive members, because they were giving it up to them. And here's the thing. That soft shell zone is supposed to prevent throws deep. But yet, there were 2 throws deep by Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson, who literally went right up the seam or down the sideline past their cornerbacks, because neither Vildor nor Sutton got any bump on them, and they just blew right past them. So again, still didn't make a damn lick of good. Again, had the game probably gone the way a lot of Lions fans were hoping it was going to do, with us running away from the Vikings to where we felt comfortable enough to pull out our starters, maybe we wouldn't even be having this conversation. But again, that's just all hyperbole and that's all hypothetical. If we realistically want to get back to the heart of the matter, like I said, there was no way Sam Laporta was going to sit in that game. The Lions only had 2 active tight ends. Laporta was going to play one way or the other. And again, whether the injury happened today or whether it happened in the playoff game or whenever, doesn't matter. Injuries are a part of the game. Next man up mindset. That's been the same message we've heard from Dan Campbell and the Lions for the last 2 years. Do injuries suck? Yeah, they suck, but it's next man up. Until the guy's ready to come back and play, we need the next man up to come in, step in, and do his job, so that way it doesn't hurt us all that bad. And you know what? Sometimes it works out really damn well. You want to understand that? Think about this. When we lost C.J. Gardner-Johnson, everybody started losing their minds, because they're like, oh, now we're screwed on the defensive back end. But yet, Brian Branch stepped up more so as a rookie. Kirby Joseph had some problems, but he played all right. But then who was the one who really stepped up? Ife Melifonwu, a guy that most people had wrote off for the last 2 or 3 years. That's my whole point. Just because Laporta is injured does not mean that somebody else can't step up and fill in. And furthermore, let's understand the nature of Laporta's injury. Like I said in my live stream, it was likely a hyperextended knee, which is exactly what it turned out to be. Now, granted, it has a bone bruise on top of that, but here's the true nature of it. First and foremost, Laporta is a young guy. He's going to be able to recover a lot faster than most people than in the NFL. Again, think about it. Travis Kelce hyperextended his knee prior to week 1 against the Lions. He couldn't go that week because, hey, he's almost 30-something years. He's over 30 years old. Laporta's a young buck. He's going to be able to bounce back a lot easier than Kelce is. And number 2, let's think about this. If it comes down to it, the playoffs are kind of a position where it's like, listen, you play through pain. If Laporta can function on it and it's just a matter of pain tolerance, you honestly think that freaking Sam Laporta is not going to take painkillers to try and get him through the game? You don't think he's not going to do that? I guarantee you he will. If it's for a first playoff victory in Detroit in 30-plus years, even though he's a rookie, he's going to put his body out there to do it. I know some Lions fans may not want to hear that, but that's what NFL players do. They take the risks, they assume the risks because they know the risks. So blaming Dan Campbell for Sam Laporta and Khalif Raymond's injury and St. Brown and Brian Branch's injury scares is stupid in my opinion. It's part of the game. Regardless of whether or not you like it, it wasn't going to change anything because the players were not going to not play. And as Campbell said after the game, Branch and St. Brown are fine. We don't know what's going on as well with Khalif Raymond, but it looks like with Sam Laporta, depending upon what the further tests bring out, he could be able to play. It might be a matter of pain tolerance, or maybe he has to sit out. Who knows? But to blame Dan Campbell for why Sam Laporta got injured, to me that's just being short-sighted and not looking at the total measure of what's going on throughout the course of the game and all the individual situations and scenarios that play into it. That's my whole point. But anyway, having said that, I think I've covered that topic. Hopefully people will be able to understand it, but we'll see. With that having been said, I just want to say thank you all for watching another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. I also highly encourage y'all please to do one of these three things. Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Please keep your comments respectful. I do highly encourage that, but we'll see what happens. I also encourage y'all, please, if you subscribed in the past, you forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed, again, I want to make sure you please subscribe. But if you just subscribed and forgot to do so, I also want to encourage y'all, please make sure you turn on that bell notification icon so that way you never miss any more content that I push out. Again, subscription numbers are always going up, but we want to make sure you turn on that notification icon so that way as soon as I push something out, you can come right back in, you can watch the latest content, and we can continue to talk football. To help in that endeavor, I also want to encourage y'all, please, please, please share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook. Share it anywhere and everywhere you can with everybody and anybody that you can. And with that being said, to everybody, I just want to say thank you all for watching the content. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope to have gained you a subscriber if I had not done so already. And if I still haven't gained you as a subscriber, hopefully you'll come back and I'll get another chance to do so. But until that time, I just want to say, everybody, God bless. Hope you all enjoyed the show. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.